Turkey, a republic in 1923, a cosmopolitan haven. We reached Turkey from Istanbul, flying through Afghanistan and Iran and reaching into this beautiful port city which was once called Constantinople. It has a huge sea history. The airport of Istanbul welcomes us. It is the most walkable city in the whole wide world. Yes, and during COVID, people never went there, but today the airport's back in action and Istanbul's ready to get visitors. We started off with our tour in Edirne, a beautiful city in the Thrace region of Turkey, the 15% of which is in the European side. So this settlement of Edirne is very pretty. It has the bazaars. It has buildings which are inspired by the Greeks because it's in the Greek region, shares border with Greece. This is the Mizba market of Edirne, a very quaint little town with Ataturk watching over it like every other city. The first or the finest piece behind me is the Selimiye Mosque by architect Mimar Sinan. Beautiful structure being renovated when we went. So unfortunately it was covered in scaffolding. That's a gutter detail, and this is how it looked in all its glory. It was Mimar Sinan's best piece of architecture. He built a lot in Istanbul itself. This is inside the Selimiye Mosque, a portion of which was still open for tourists. A lot of it was covered. This beautiful detailing, the squinches, the mihrab. This was the group we went to. There were a lot of people and we had a lot of fun. Eating first on day one is the shigofte kebab kofta, which is basically a vegetarian thing. From our hotel window, we could see beautiful trees. On the bus, our journey was 2,000 kilometers all around the Anatolian plateau. We started from Edirne and headed back to St. Kakler Mosque in Istanbul, located near the gated communities in an affluent neighborhood. But our journey took us through a lot of petrol pumps. We were on the road a lot. But St. Kakler Mosque is something different. It's a mosque which has taken a very modernistic view and built with stone, granite stone, and the interiors are a lot modified, and it's inspired by the Japanese style of minimalism. So this mosque looked a lot Japanese than ever before. There are steps going down to this mosque just as the ceiling rises to mimic a dome, but not exactly a dome. Very simple, very symbolic, clean lines, carpeted all through, concreted otherwise, with these huge panels. This is on top of the mosque, and these are the concrete retaining walls which hold the structure, which is actually sunken into the ground. Lighting is very minimalistic and the details are very, very light. We then went on the Bosphorus cruise, which is something that one must do, treated to an elaborate lunch. Vegetarians do not need to be dismayed. There was lots of salad, lots of vegetables on the plate. From the Bosphorus cruise, you can look at Hagia Sophia behind me, a lot of cruise ships that come from Venice. The menu is immense. This is the Dolmashai Palace, which was the last palace that was occupied by the Ottomans before they were driven away. So yes, that's the group, all of us in a private cruise ride. What you see there are pirate ships. The flag of Turkey is everywhere. They offered us some aperitifs and they offered us a beautiful view. There was smoke billowing out on one of the sides near the Galata Tower. Wonder what that was all about. The seagulls nonchalantly floating away on the Bosphorus, like a zillion of them. So they are a treat to the eyes. We went all the way to the north, seeing the European side, and saw the Asian side from the other side. Like it was a walkable city, we could walk everywhere. While I was looking for pathways and how to reach the Beyoğlu area and Karaköy area on my map, because I was doing a walking tour, so trying to keep it so that my phone battery didn't die, and my phone battery kept dying. Well, 2-year-old Apple throws quite a tantrum. So that's me getting started on my tour. This is the Museum of Innocence, and this was at the Kavasi opposite the Galata Tower, making friends with some Turkish women. Look at the queue, just long queue to eat these two things, which is cheesecake with chocolate and a hot chocolate to go with it. Never miss on chocolate. Another friend on the way into the streets of Beyoğlu and Karaköy, the gentrified art district of Istanbul. It was beautiful, it was lovely. Art galleries throughout, art galleries made art made from very new Turkish artists who are catching the world by quite a storm, all ready to be picked up about 30,000 lira onwards. This was the art price. Emre Vetkin, another artist. This was the beautiful Shehzade Mosque. Mado, a chain which is everywhere. Churros couldn't be far away. Spain wasn't far away. This is Istiklal Caddesi Street, which I'm finally able to pronounce well, with all the high street brands. Water chestnuts roasted. And finally, Hagia Sophia, early in the morning at 6 a.m., just after the morning prayers. The dome is exquisite. The church, the former church converted to a mosque, requires us to wear a headgear, to wear a scarf, cover our head and our ears, because it's a functioning mosque. It's beautiful. The details, the Roman details of it are not to be ignored. It has the apse, it has the sides. It's just too beautiful, with rose windows and art of glass work coming in through the windows. The quality of light in the Hagia Sophia is extremely beautiful and delightful. Essentially, the light is the superstar in the Hagia Sophia, outside or inside. The murals, the artwork is exquisite. It's slightly pink in color, the Hagia Sophia. Literally ready to fall in love with it. Again being renovated till 2025. The plaza in front of Hagia Sophia offers a great viewing platform to look at it. This fountain was donated by the Germans, and the obelisk was given by the Egyptian pharaoh. So a lot of these symbolic gifts were displayed along the hippodrome. You can see the hippodrome where horses used to run. The fountain in between the Hagia Sophia, that's my humble sketch of the Hagia Sophia, and the Blue Mosque on the other side offer us a great vantage view of the Blue Mosque and the Hagia Sophia. The pebbles in above the basilica cistern, this is a basilica cistern, were kept horizontally. There's a little water left there for us to understand how the basilica cistern probably worked. The view inside is insane. It's now an art gallery with a lot of art displayed by Turkish artists. This is just on the road, and this is the drawing of the cistern. Istanbul is the city of cats. There are cats everywhere, everywhere. The Blue Mosque is blue because of the domes, and it's a much lighter structure, not as heavy as Hagia Sophia, but it was built like 1,000 years later by Mimar Sinan. It's one of his good works, which he also talks a lot about in his scriptures, and he displays a very skeletal sort of mosque, and he does outdo himself in the Selimiye Mosque later on. This is the view of Istanbul from the Blue Mosque. The breeze is amazing. Light was great. The weather in Istanbul for the week that we were there was exquisite. The details of the Blue Mosque are as exquisite as ever, with its minarets and its Islamic arches. This is the tomb of Mimar Sinan, probably an architect who was buried right next to the Blue Mosque. So he was quite lucky that way. A gutter detail. And walking through the streets of Istanbul, the streets had beautiful architecture, of course, but some of them really caught my eye. This purple fringed home, or this wooden slats home. So these are homes of people, they actually live there. That's our guide who guided us through it. So there was soup, which was quite delicious, and that's Sapanku Golu, which is a lake. A Golu is a lake, and that's our food with barley rice. The group on the bus, and after eating a meal and drinking some Turkish tea, which I did not like, but I am no tea person, so I guess that doesn't work with me. But the views to the Sapanku Golu was very, very pretty. And there's a little train made with wooden kegs. A journey later, another plateful of food. This was day 2 in Ankara, where we visited the Museum of Anatolian Civilization. So there were a lot of history. There was a lot of history starting from the Neanderthals, Homo erectus, and how we actually turned into being Homo sapiens. There was a lot of Greek history. There were a lot of beautiful structures and lot of things that were recovered from the Anatolian plateau. After that, we went to the mausoleum of Ataturk, the father of Turkey. He has done so much for the country. He's like changed it from an Islamic state to a secular state. We understood the building. The building was won as an award and built thereafter. Below the mausoleum is an exhibition which shows the Turkish freedom process and how they actually fought for their freedom, and exhibits a lot of things which Ataturk actually owned and kept in his private quarters. They were all donated by their daughters, by his daughters, a long time after Turkey was classified as a republic, and they were donated to the museum so people could actually see and understand what Turkey actually went through. The galleries below are very beautiful with their arches and niches which hold each and every part of the history of Turkey from when it became a republic, and how their friendly continents with the other countries is also displayed. The man of the hour, Mustafa Kemal, now known as Ataturk. He abolished the scarf system, he abolished the hijab in Turkey. He also got everybody in Turkey to have a surname, which was a practice that was not had previously. He's a man of many talents. He was actually a general in the army who rose his ranks and declared Turkey independent. And Turkey has a lot of sea borders. It shares borders with the Aegean Sea, the Sea of Marmara, and the Mediterranean Sea. So it has a huge coastline which it defends through its naval power. This is on the way up to the mausoleum. That was a group picture at the mausoleum. Unfortunately, while at the mausoleum, my passport got wet. What a disaster. That's at Tuzgolu. It was so beautiful. It's a lot like the Run of Kutch. It's salt. It's a lake where the water evaporated and all that remained was the salt. Frizzy hair, don't care. And we've spotted a bunch of flamingos. We were one of them, but we spotted them too. A little fun with the girls. And that was the group. Besides, I also tried to dig up some earth and turkey ka namak khaya tha. Tried to have a little bit of it. It's terrible. It's salty, of course. Tuzgolu has a bunch of frames to frame the beautiful view, and we couldn't help be there. But the most beautiful part of the trip, yes, Cappadocia. There are scenes from Cappadocia at 6 p.m, so nearing sunset. The views were exquisite. There was so much beauty all around the atmosphere. There was sunlight bouncing off the stones, the igneous rock, which was once volcanic lava, solidified and became this very carvable rock of Cappadocia. Extremely beautiful. The sights were endless, shades of grey and beige. These were the Hittite settlements where the Hittites made wonderful cave-like structures and lived in them. They had a living room, dining room, kitchen, and a lot of people actually would live, a full family would live in one of these hills. So that was me exploring one of these Hittite settlements in Cappadocia. Of course, a lot of artisans who still carve out things from the beautiful rock they have there. Cappadocia's hotels are in caves too. This is the Cappadocia Cave Suite, and they have swimming pools and beautiful lamps, workshops for these lamps, and they have terracotta lamps made, and they are Turkish delights. Well, the ice cream, he wouldn't give it to you. The play is so endlessly long that at one point I almost gave up hopes of getting ice cream, and at another point I literally thought that my ice cream would melt.
Eat the cone.
But of course it didn't melt. The weather is almost like the refrigerator in September. But the man has so much patience. The tricks of his trade, his excessive reflexes were nothing to match. with my reflexes for sure. And finally, I got 3 layers of ice cream, chocolate, caramel and vanilla. And it was delicious, definitely. I made it worth the wait. Oh, not without a twirl, of course. I thought I earned it with a twirl, but apparently I didn't. Oh my goodness. Our room too was in one of these hotels. It wasn't a cave hotel, but they had a lot of stone nevertheless. That was my roommate, Abir.
Oh Lord, Cappadocia is so cool.
And then for dinner, that was my table. In Cappadocia at Haruna, overlooking the beautiful views of Cappadocia, bustling tourist town where everything is overpriced, including the ice cream, the cotton candy, and the views. Extremely touristy and quite pretty. Haruna. Cappadocia is full of trails. A lot of trails. This was at the Uchisar Castle. We did a long walk along the Pigeon Valley. And next day morning, woke up early in the morning, grabbed a quick breakfast and flew the Asiana hot air balloon. Surprised that they were actually filling the balloons with 2 fans, literally, before turning them on with the heat, with the fire, and getting them up in the air. Quite a sight to watch. What a feeling. What a place to be. The hot air balloon experience in Cappadocia is literally like nothing else. It is insanely beautiful. And no hitches, hardly any hitches. Getting 150 balloons up in the air is no mean feat. The balloons glide, literally they cannot control direction. The pilot of the balloon cannot control direction. There are 28 people in a basket in divisions of 3 or 4, and the pilot stays right in the middle when he's working the fire to get the balloon off land, into the air. And he does it so effortlessly. It's absolutely so smooth that a friend of ours who was so scared of heights sailed through the entire hour without even getting any jitters. So once we're in the air, it's just pure floating. It's just such a feeling of being, just simply being. And the only thing that you can control in a hot air balloon is the altitude. You can either go up or down, but the balloon is mainly guided by the breeze in the air. So if you want to move in a certain direction, or you supposedly don't want to land at that particular point, then all you can do is to increase the altitude and just wait for the winds to get favorable or change and come down, landing again. But direction is not controlled, but the altitude is controlled. It can't be philosophical. Possibly we can control our altitude or our attitude in life, keep going up and come down when we want to. But that's about it, we can control. But not so much the direction.
That's the word, right?
It's a magnificent sight, one that induces unadulterated happiness. It is so beautiful. It's one of those activities that you do bang when the sun is rising, when the sun is getting up in the air and all these balloons get up in the air. In Cappadocia, balloons are allowed flight only in the morning and not in the evening, because the winds are a lot more strenuous and chaotic in the evenings. It is absolutely stunning. I don't think any picture can do justice to what it feels like to be on that hot air balloon in Cappadocia. And looking down, you see all these rocks carved over the years into these conical shapes, carved by the Hittites in use. A landscape that is as gorgeous as the experience of being in a balloon. I was happy, insanely happy. What happened is God literally smiled on this landscape, which is atrocious. And landing. What can I say about it? While we started to get down, so there's all the trekkers who climb up to get a view of these beautiful balloons. There are are so many viewpoints all around Cappadocia, all around Goreme.
And some of them at a little lower altitude.
And
Simply
people
because
walking
it
out to
all
see.
depends
So
on
while
the
we were
speed
beginning
catch
to
the
land,
wind.
we kept
You
trying to look for where we could.
In the mid
We obviously couldn't land on the rocks, so we had to look for the planes.
Either way, you
The whole
catch
experience, since we couldn't get any landing time, we just kept going up and down, and literally enjoying the whole process of being on a hot air
the
balloon.
importance of just being.
And once we land, getting the balloon to deflate is yet another challenge, and that's how we saw when while we were up, our trailer van was following our balloon to wonder where we're going to get to land finally. And we just took our time. The pilot too just took his time. He was so good. We didn't even realize that he was aiming to land on the trailer. We didn't realize that. And finally finding the spot, he turns off the gas to gain some gravity and get lower.
Touchdown in 10. And there's one lone balloon still showing up there.
It was definitely not topsy-turvy.
Then we gotta follow the landing protocol when we come further. That's our carrier.
With fewer balloons in the air, a lot of balloons come down in a gap of an hour. And that's our trailer. And we actually landed on that without a sense of direction, without a control on the directions. He still managed to land on the trailer. That was quite something. And that's it. That's how we prepared for landing. We got onto the trailer and we got off our hot air balloon. Just like that.
One of the happiest views of the world, I think. That many balloons at the same time in the air.
And the curtains fall.
What is the fold? Yeah, exactly. This was definitely the highlight. Which is like.
Of course, what followed later was the graduation ceremony. It was sheer bliss, I must say. And he popped some non-alcoholic champagne, drenched all of us in it, quite literally, and then carried on with the graduation ceremony.
Here. Thank you.
And that was me, getting my certificate. After that, we went into the cave temples by
For many historians, as a result, Christianity was born in the Middle East, but it grew up in cities now and see the
An absolutely surreal experience looking up to the roof and seeing the beautiful colors indigo color got from India before we headed to the underground city. For those who are claustrophobic, it would be a nightmare, but for those who aren't, it's a lot of fun. With ventilation shafts, the air was cool and oxygenated. We didn't feel very claustrophobic. There's a church, a marketplace, a kitchen, living rooms, dining rooms, and quarters to make grapes. Wine was first cultivated by the Hittites in one of these underground cities. The caves, the churches inside these caves are legendary. Cappadocia is not complete without the trails. The Red Valley and Rose Valley. This is me getting to the Red Valley and the Rose Valley.
So beautiful.
A mean feat with really narrow trails.
Love that.
And this is at the Mendicere Valley, literally walking through these structures. In the Goreme National Park. After a super hectic walk, we headed to the Sema ceremony where we watched whirling dervishes. Pictures were not really allowed, so I didn't take them. And the next day, well, I got dressed, inspired by the trip to Turkey, to Cappadocia, such a changed person, learning to live my dream, learning to do what I want, and absolutely being filled with these beautiful views and feelings. We headed to the caravanserai along the Silk Route, heading to Bursa. Bursa is known for its silk, and Konya, known for Rumi. Rumi is known as the King of Hearts, and Konya is known as the City of Hearts. These are prayer beads, and this is the tomb of Rumi. The whirling dervishes that Rumi was a part of. Here is a museum that depicts all their work. The Turkish rose, so beautiful and so red. And the whirling diva, she said she's not a dervish, so she could only be a diva, learning to whirl as a form of meditation. And that is Rumi's tomb. It is so beautiful, and we had people looking through all his memorabilia. People were crying inside Rumi's tomb. This was the dome on his tomb. And the artwork, the Islamic world is very exquisite. This is a madrasa in Konya, which was used for specialized study. And the madrasa itself was so motivating and inspirational. We walked through the city of Konya and headed to another madrasa that used glazed tiles in that century. And the next day, driving on in our 2,000-kilometer road trip, we ate peaches on the way, so beautiful, and headed to Bursa. Bursa is a small little town, but it is so quaint and so beautiful that we were enamored by the caravanserai that sold all the things that the Grand Bazaar sells too. A tad more classier, I would say. This is the bazaar in Bursa. And Bursa Epek sells so many things. That's a cobbler. And we walked to the mosque in Bursa, where a cat sat on my lap without being asked to and didn't leave. That's what cats do. They just do what they want. Probably my spirit animal. But I did love Bursa. Apparently the cats there love me too. Chetna picked up some puppets. We just kept driving on and on till we reached Istanbul and went to the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul by the Hagia Sophia. It's built by the Ottomans. It was a residence of the Ottomans, and it hosts all the things that the Ottomans would use. Spoon keeper's diamond, very beautiful. The tulip era architecture is so well displayed in the Topkapi Palace. That was the spoonmaker's diamond. So stunning. And the jade kilt and guns. Ottomans used all of this. They had a really long and war-beaten history where they fought through generations, through the years with Genoese and held their own. So Ahmed III loved to read, and he made a library. I have not seen a library as beautiful, inspired by the tulip era architecture. It was gorgeous. The balconies and the verandas of the Topkapi Palace are insane too, and they have really beautiful views of the Bosphorus. Fit for a sultan. That's the throne, the Ottoman throne, gilded, not to say the least. It was so beautiful, inch by inch of precious stones. And our last sunset of the trip at the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul. There were trees that were whirling too. Before heading out to have the kumpir or baked potatoes and heading to the hammam for some much needed R&R. What an experience the hammam was. We totally enjoyed the Harem Sultana. Next morning, this was me heading to Bebek, the elite part of town, and must I say the beautiful part. People were swimming in the Bosphorus, eating eclair, and well, worshipping Ataturk, like they all do. The artifacts of the Grand Bazaar are so beautiful. The spices are tantalizing. They set your heart on fire. The kind of colors you do see in the Grand Bazaar and Spice Bazaar, and eating kunafa, packing up baklava, heading to the airport and saying, Teşekkürler Turkey.